Hey everybody, Nick here, and today I want to talk about an often overlooked aspect of pocket knives, and that is the clip. The blade, people talk about the scales, the design, people go all into that, but oftentimes the pocket clip kind of gets ignored. That's just the thing you clip in your pocket. But it turns out it's really important when you start thinking about actually carrying a knife on a daily basis. So I want to talk a little bit about how I evaluate a pocket clip. Maybe it'll be helpful to some new knife makers out there, and I also got to eat a little bit of crow, so we'll get around to that a little bit later. First off, there are many ways to keep a knife in your pocket. Assuming you've got a clip at all, there are different solutions. The wire clip, which is something that Spyderco likes a lot, is just a piece of wire that's bent in such a way that it clips things to your pocket. There are a lot of good advantages there. There are also some disadvantages. I happen to really like it. Some people really hate it. Sage 5 and Sleesh Bowie, by the way, by Spyderco. Here you've got a bunch of spring clips. And a spring clip is a piece of metal of some variety or another that's bent and is springy. So the clip works just by slightly springing this metal off, and it's just a flat sheet of metal when it starts, and it's just been contoured in a meaningful way. And there are lots and lots of spring clips in the world. That's been the way it's been forever. So this is a Van Wyck custom knife, Southern Grind Spider Monkey, Burger EXK, Smock SK23, and a Ferrum Forge Archbishop over here. You get milled clips or sculpted clips where the maker starts off with a chunk of material and mills away material until you end up with something that looks like a pocket clip. This is a Cody Utzler custom regulator. This is a Giant Mouse GM1. You can see here the clip is much more than just a little springy chunk. So that's kind of neat. This is the Shirogorov Neon with a nice sculpted clip. And this right here is an Aegis Hoplite, which has a very interesting, very different clip. And then finally, you got the weird ones, like the Graham Razel here, which has the Graham pocket clip that kind of slides. Let's see if I can do this here. It just hooks on the edge of your pocket so that the knife really disappears in there. Kind of a nice thing. You got the Cricket Swindle, which has a similar sort of idea. This little bit here is the pocket clip. And then you got your Chris Reeve tie lock, which out of the box comes with this clip, which is very unique. Not something I'm a big fan of, but it's certainly different. So that's kind of an overview of what's out there. Let's talk about what I, as a really picky knife nerd, look for when I'm looking at a pocket clip. So if somebody hands me a knife, say a designer, something like that, and says, Nick, what do you think? One of the first things I look at is going to be the pocket clip. And there were 6 things that I give a damn about with the pocket clip. First off is the size. The size of a pocket clip is actually very meaningful in terms of how well it stays in your pocket. This guy right here, the Burger EXK, has a very nicely sized pocket clip. It's very large relative to the knife, but that's kind of a counterintuitive point that I found to be really true. Smaller knives need bigger clips. If you put a very small clip on a very small knife, it's very easy for that lightweight knife to come falling out of your pocket. So when you've got this nice long thing, it takes a lot more effort to pull this guy far enough out of your pocket for it to fall away. A longer knife or a heavier knife really doesn't need much clip. The Graham Razel clip is very adequate because there's a whole lot of knife that's hanging here. This isn't going to accidentally, on a little bump, pop up out of your pocket. So size actually does matter, but it really... The smaller the knife, the bigger the clip you want to use. The Southern Grind Spider Monkey actually suffers a little bit from this, having a fairly small clip up here on what is actually not that big of a knife either. So that's something you got to keep in mind. Size, at least for clips, really does matter. The second issue that I look at is the depth of carry with the knife. What I mean by that is that there are some knives that really disappear in the pocket. The Graham Razel is a great example of this. If you hang this guy in your pocket, this guy just kind of hangs out in the corner of your jeans and no one really knows what's going on there. Is it a pen? Is it a massive, weird knife? Who knows? As opposed to other knives, this guy right here, this is a Van Wyck custom knife, and has the property of sticking way the heck out your pocket when you're carrying it. That's a very, very shallow carry. A shallow carry is nice because it's very easy to grab the knife out of your pocket. But a deep carry is nice because it's much more subtle. People don't necessarily think about it, and, it's also a little harder for it to fall out. If you've got something especially small and shallow, it's very easy for that to go flying. So depth is kind of an important thing. I tend to like a deeper carry, but at the same time, there's a nice line between accessibility and depth. So you got to find that for yourself. Moving along. The next thing to keep an eye out for, the third thing I look for, is the placement of the clip and the angle of the clip. Ideally, you want a clip that kind of angles the knife back towards the edge of the pocket. So if you're carrying right side, it should go to this direction. And if the clip is reversible, it should go back to this direction. And the idea there is that as this is hanging in your pocket, it's easier for the knife to get out of the way and let your hand in there to get at your wallet or whatever you got in the pocket there. The right angle can make a big knife seem a lot smaller. Like this GM1 here will hang naturally like this, so that everything's kind of out of the way. This is a really good design in that way. And so the right angle can make a clip a lot better. In terms of position, the other thing to keep in mind is your carry desires. Some knives are able to be carried on the right side or flipped over for the left side. A lot of knives, though, especially on the higher end, only offer right side tip-up carry. That's the most popular option, but not everybody agrees that that's the best one. One thing to note, though, is that a very thin knife can get away with hanging vertically, like this Utzler regulator here. Would I prefer a little bit of cant? Sure, maybe. But at the same time, it's not a wide enough knife that it's really a big concern. So the placement and geometry of the clip is an important thing. The next issue that a lot of people actually screw up on is being able to get the knife into the pocket. For instance, on this little guy here, this is the Van Wyck Custom, you can see that there's not a whole lot of ramp here, which means that as you're trying to put this guy into your pants, you really need to be precise. And if you've got thick fabric on your pants, for instance, you're wearing work pants, it can be very, very hard to get the knife under the fabric in a meaningful way when that ramp is that small, as opposed to a knife like the Sleesh Bowie here, which has a pretty reasonable lift-off relative to the handle of the knife. Then it's pretty easy. You just slide it underneath there, and you're on. And that's a big factor in being able to get the knife comfortably in and out of your pocket. So you want a little bit of a ramp there, which lets you get in there, but if it's too big, on the other side, you start snagging on things, and that's unpleasant. So take a look at that ramp. That can be a bit of a concern if it's not done well. The Shirogorov Neon, unfortunately, falls into that category of too little ramp. If you take a look at it here, you can see there's just not much space between the clip and otherwise. I can get it into the pants, but I do wish that the clip was just a little bit different on this particular knife, even though I love it in other ways. Next issue is actually going to be retention and the tension of the clip itself. You want a knife's clip to keep the knife in the pants. That's the fundamental goal. And so you want some spring to it. You really want it to be gripping on your pants in a meaningful way. If a clip is really, really loose, well, you're going to have a bad time. It's going to come flying out of your pocket sooner or later here. So you need a little pressure, you need a little stiffness. Some knives are really troubled in that way. The Marfione Sigil, Marfione Monroe, I suppose, had a clip that's really cool. It kind of pinched up there, but it didn't have enough tension on it, and so the knife could just fall out of your pants at any point in time. So that tension is actually important. One of the nice things about a wire clip or a spring clip or a really well-made milled clip is that you can adjust the tension pretty easily. You take the clip off and you just bend it a little bit, and that increases the tension. Or if it's too tense, you bend it back the other way. That's a beautiful thing. So, you got to make sure that tension is right, though. The most common issue I see on the high end, and the last thing I'm really looking for, is the springiness of the clip. An ideal clip will have some spring to it. Enough to press down and keep it in your pocket, but also enough to be able to pop up so the material of your jeans can get over it. Most pants don't, they're not uniformly thick. You have a thick part at the beginning and then a thin part later on. And if you can't get the pocket clip over the thick part, you're going to have a bad time. It's not going to be a very good clip. And when you have these sculpted or milled clips, that tends to be a big problem. It's very, very easy to make a milled clip that is just way too thick and that doesn't have any spring at all to it. And in those situations, what happens is you're just effectively trying to force the fabric to compress underneath the clip until it gets to the other side, and that's ugly. And it means that some knives, like this Utzler or also the Aegis Hoplite here, it's just really hard to get this guy. Okay, well, this is very thin fabric. Here, I'll add another fold to it. It's really hard to get this guy over the initial part of your jeans. There we go. There's just not enough. And then when you got to pull it out, come on, you little bugger. There you go. See what I mean? When the clip is too stiff, you're going to have a bad time. The Shirogorov Neon is right on the edge of that. And the Aegis Hoplite here is also in that same category. It's a pain in the neck to get out of your pocket because the clip is just way too stiff. You can do a milled clip right. The GM1's done it right, the Grimsmo Norseman, which is currently on loan to my buddies over at the Birdshot IV channel. And I can think of some other ones, I'm sure, but you can do a milled clip that's got the right tension. But when you don't, when you make a milled clip that's got the tension all wrong, you're going to be in a world of hurt, like on here or even on here. And so, yeah. Let's move on to the eating the crow. So eating crow, for those of you unfamiliar with the idiom, is just basically saying, you know what, I said this in the past, I was wrong. And in the past I've said things about some high-end knives like, well, this is a great knife, but why did they put a spring clip on there? They should have just used a milled clip. And that makes sense. I mean, at some level, a great milled clip is a beautiful thing. Like on the GM1 here. It offsets the design nicely, really ties the room together, man. And it's just a beautiful thing. And because it's done well, it's not really a problem particularly. But the thing is, in all of my time looking at the high-end knives, I've come to realize that by and large, milled clips are just not done very well. And that usually a knife is slightly better off if you're just using a boring spring clip. Like I said, I love a really well done one, but so few people are making them really well, and spring clips have serious advantages. You can very easily bend them back if you spring the clip. You could do that with some milled clips, again, if they're designed well. A spring clip can be remade. If for some reason you just break the clip off right, you know, the maker can send you another one, no problem, relatively cheaply. Or you can take it to another maker and they can make you a different clip. Because you're not worried about weird geometry and special milling marks and anything like that. It's a simpler affair. And honestly, more of the time, a spring clip is the better functional choice. So, you know, I guess at the end of the day, sure, if you can make a really good milled clip that meets all of my criteria, the good springiness, there we go, good retention, it's easy to get in and out of your pocket, the geometry is right, the depth and the size are good, then by all means, make yourself a stellar sculpted clip. But the thing is, you need to be honest with yourself, and if you're not quite good enough to make a really good milled clip, then just make a spring clip. And I tell you what, in the future, I'm just going to shut up about it. If the clip works, I'm happy. So, there you go. I guess that's a rant at past Nick. What a jackass he is. Anyways, I hope this has been interesting and maybe helpful. And let me know what your favorite kind of clip is. Maybe your favorite clip of all time in knives. For me, personally, I think the Graham Razel clip is going to be my favorite of all time. But, or maybe the Spyderco wire clip. Anyways, let me know down in the comments, and have yourselves an absolutely wonderful rest of the day, and I hope you enjoyed watching this clip. Okay, bye now.